Welcome to The Backstory. I'm Robert, and today I'm joined by Kristen Dalton Wolf. You won Miss USA,
Yes.
which is absolutely amazing. Thank you for being here.
Miss USA back in the day.
That is awesome. Is it 2009? Is that
Yes.
what I remember? Okay, cool. So obviously, you've had a lot of life change.
Yeah.
And so you started in East Coast, you're now West Coast. Talk about what brought you from childhood to pageantry to where you're at today in ministry.
Wow. Childhood pageantry, where today
I
I'm
know.
in ministry. I feel like there is an overarching theme. I was raised believing in Jesus, devotions every morning before we went to school, Sunday school, every Sunday, youth group, mission trips, all the things. And I was also raised on Disney princess movies
Yes.
and fairy tales. And the Miss USA pageant.
Of course.
It was like a holiday in our house, kind of like the Super Bowl, except the Miss USA pageant. My dad was in on it too. He predicted
So that was
the winners.
the big thing.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was. And I have two younger sisters, a younger brother. We would all sit around the TV. My mom would pop popcorn. We would pass around orange juice in a thermos, which is a big deal because we can only drink milk and water in our house.
Oh, okay.
So orange juice at nighttime was like, ooh, sugar rush. And my mom would roll her hair in sponge rollers, and we would make our top 15, top 10, top 5 predictions. And
So it's like the Oscars.
oh yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And all those women, for me, even when I was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, those women to me just embodied a princess, a queen. And they carried themselves with confidence and poise under pressure. They answered really hard questions really well. They were very articulate, excellent communicators, great interpersonal skills, also making differences in their communities.
Right.
So to me, they were a role model. And so since I was a young girl, I was like, I want to be like that for little girls too one day. And so since I was 3, I was like, I want to be Miss USA one day. And then in the 7th grade, it became more real. I was 12 years old. I was a new girl at school, did not feel pretty, had a face covered full of acne, chest and back too. The boys I had a crush on called me ugly and disgusting and tomato face. I had a short boy haircut and no friends. So I didn't have any of the circumstances to really point to the fact that I would ever be Miss
Sure.
USA. But we always have that inner voice
Yeah.
within us that is quiet, especially when other things are drowning it out, that we have to just choose to listen to.
Yeah.
We're either going to listen to it or we're not.
Sure.
It's the creator's voice or our critic's voice.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, so even as a 12-year-old, I was like, even though I don't feel beautiful when I look in the mirror, I'm going to believe what God has been telling me since I was a little girl instead.
Yeah.
And that's that. I'm going to be Miss USA one day. And so it comes down to making a decision and then believing that we're worthy of it, even when it doesn't make sense. So since then, I got on this track of what does it take to win? And I was super focused. I won.
So how many years from 7th grade to winning was that?
9 years.
Okay.
So 9 years before I ever stepped foot on the stage. And this is why I call my coaching business now Train to Reign.
Yeah.
Is because it's not about preparing for the competition, because that stuff is superficial. Anybody can buy an expensive gown, put on some makeup,
Sure.
learn how to do your hair, learn how to walk. That is not the thing that helps you win. The thing that helps a woman stand out in life and rise above is the sparkle and this radiance. And I wasn't a front runner on the road to my dream
Right.
as Miss USA. I wasn't on anyone's radar to win, but I won. And the head judge told me that night it was because I had this sparkle
Yeah.
about me. And so, but since then, even though I had that, according to her, I had that sparkle then, I think a lot of it had to do with my wonder and hope and innocence, regardless of how I had been treated and the things I had gone through. But since then, I had another life-defining moment, which has led me into my ministry now. Because I wasn't really sure how God was going to use the platform of Miss USA, what exactly that was going to look like,
Sure.
until I moved to Los Angeles and I was working in the entertainment industry. And I was comparing myself to former Miss USAs and Miss USAs who came after me, and kind of using them as a measuring stick.
And you're in LA, the land of everybody compares everything.
Everybody's pretty, everybody's successful,
Right.
everyone's talented. It's who are you anymore, And so I was going through a phase of just discouragement and feeling depressed, which was a trend in my life, because I've learned that I'm a perfectionist and a performer.
Uh-oh.
So when you're that, you think that titles and accomplishments are going to cure your insecurities, and they're just not.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to do that is the creator versus created things.
Yeah.
Even created people.
Yeah.
And so someone told me for the first time, Kristen, don't you know that you are a daughter of the King? Mm-hmm. And I know that's a popular sentiment these days. It's like on social media. It's like scroll, yeah,
right.
I'm a queen, blah, blah. But it was a paradigm shifting moment for me. It was the first time I really had ears to hear. I was raised a Christian my whole life.
Right.
But I didn't understand what that really meant. Like, there's a difference in knowing about God, knowing about Jesus, knowing about your faith, knowing about church and being involved, and actually knowing who you are in Him and how He created you, what you have access to. The fact
Comes
that,
to life.
The fact that you get to hear from Him, you can have a relationship with Him. So I just got obsessed with the fact that we're all royalty. And I went on this whole journey of discovering what that is. And I was like, I want every woman to know this too. So I started my ministry.
Talk about your ministry.
That was really long.
That was really good, though.
That's going to be like way too long for social media.
People are going to love it. So you have actually multiple ministries, it sounds like.
Yeah, I have a lot going on.
So,
but everybody does. I mean,
hey, that's life, right?
You know.
So you've got your writing, you've got personal coaching, you've got a couple other things too, right?
Yes, I have a women's ministry in LA. It's called the Women's Group, the Women's Group of Los Angeles, and then from that we host monthly gatherings called She Gathers.
Okay.
And I started this women's group. It was really interesting that God called me to start it, and I was like, why do I care about women? Like, why do I have a heart for women?
Sure.
When women have been such a source of pain for me in my life? Like, why would I care about them?
Yeah.
And I just realized that God uses our pain. He uses our mess to be our message, because then we're like, oh, I can relate to all the girls who ever felt like me.
Yeah.
And what you brought up earlier, or what Bobby brought up earlier about the girls who look so beautiful and confident, successful on the outside, it's insane how so many of them struggle with belonging, feeling like they belong, feeling like they're accepted, feeling like they're not like crazy or weird or whatever. And so then they just turn to achievements and accomplishments to
boost themselves up or whatever.
To validate themselves. Or to hide from the pain. So they'll like use that as a veneer. So I had this experience years ago when my husband and I were first dating. We were 3 weeks in. He took me to this church called Bethel up in Redding, California. And we walked into the sanctuary. This wasn't on a Sunday. I think it was on a Saturday. And when we walked in, it was crazy. I could feel the presence of God. And these like 3 or 4 girls like walk up to me, and I'm just like, what's going on? And they start telling me, like, speaking life, like, you're like a Queen Esther in the spirit. You have a calling on your life. You are pure. Your heart is like gold, and like telling me all this beautiful stuff. And I was like bawling, crying, like hot tears, because these are girls my age who represented girls who had hurt me before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now they're speaking words of healing and truth and life. And I was just like, what is going on? Another paradigm shifting moment. And I'm just like, what would our culture look like if girls were so secure within themselves that they knew their worth, they knew what God said about them, so they didn't have to compare, they didn't have to compete, they didn't have to play games, they didn't have to be passive aggressive, they didn't have to gossip, they didn't have to worry about division and manipulation and factions and all the things, and instead they could just be like, oh my gosh, don't you know how amazing you are? And actually it would be from a sincere place versus like, how can I get in with your group place? The
possibilities are endless.
And so that's why I started my women's group, and now it's just such an amazing culture where there's no gossip, there's only acceptance, there's only life speaking, calling out gold, and we're like, oh my gosh, let's replicate this. Let's take this to the next level. And so now we're doing our monthly gatherings where we're trying to just multiply the impact.
How awesome. So I'm guessing perhaps your most important ministry is with your daughter.
Oh, I don't know if I'm a good mom, to be honest.
Well, you've been through so many different
'cause
experiences. Like, how are you hoping to impart what you've learned on her?
Something that is really important to me is that I'm constantly calling out the positive things in her. And my daughter is 19 months old. She's close to the terrible 2 stage, and she is very much walking in that. So it's very easy for me to get frustrated and to focus on like all the things that make her bratty.
I'm amazed you're still smiling. You're probably not getting any sleep.
Oh my gosh, and I'm here to have makeup on, yay.
Bright and early.
But there are, so I have to be like, okay, let me focus on the good things and the gold throughout the day.
Yeah.
So I'm not a walking hypocrite. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like preaching this one thing and then behind closed doors, I'm like, you little brat.
Yeah.
But instead, going to bed at night, when I put her to bed, I'm like, I really love how you were so friendly at the park today. I really love how you volunteered to be the leader at playtime today. Or I really love how wise you are. I really love how inquisitive you are. So just speaking that life, I think is really important. But not just like making her right all the time or making her the hero, but speaking out what's actually true.
Building
and
up the good
sincere.
stuff and really focusing on that. That's awesome.
Yes.
And do you hope that she follows in your footsteps someday? I don't know if you've even thought about this, but what are your dreams?
My dreams for her, even since she was in the womb, my number one prayer was that she would have a heart after God. I'm like, I just want her to have a heart for God and a heart for worship, because if that's the case, I don't need to worry.
Exactly.
She's going to seek him. He's going to guide her and lead her. I don't need her to follow in my footsteps. I don't need her to be Miss USA or any of those things. I do want us to have a close relationship, and I want her to thrive in the woman God has created her to be.
Awesome. Okay, so final question on the backstory is always the hardest one. For some people, that's actually true. I'm sure since being Miss USA, you've traveled a lot and you've gotten to go and experience a lot of different things. Is there one particular food that pops out at you, good or bad or weird or whatever it is, through the years of your experiences as you've traveled, that is worth mentioning?
That's interesting. I would have to say the two things that are popping out at me right now is paella in Spain and helado, which is ice cream in Spain. Because when I went there, I have a very sensitive stomach.
Okay.
And they're all about some meat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's scary. That could make you sick. But all their paella has like all kinds of crazy meat on it. And so I just basically ate paella, which is like rice. I just ate it as rice. I was like, with no meat. And they were like, so just rice? And I'm like,
Perfect.
And then I was like on an helado, like an ice cream diet. I ate ice cream every day. There's a bunch of heladerías, which is like ice cream stores. So.
How awesome is that? Well, thank you so much for being here this morning. Make sure you check out Kristen with her interview with Bobby on Hour of Power. And what website can they find you at?
Sheismore.com.
Go to sheismore.com and find out more about this.